Welcome to Your City at Work. I'm your host, Elisa Hines. Sales tax is defined as a tax on the sale, transfer, or exchange of a taxable item or service. Sales tax generally applies on the sale to the end user or ultimate consumer. Sales tax is generally added to the sales price and is charged to the purchaser. It's a tax the City of Stillwater uses for its general fund to pay for services like police, fire, water. But what happens when you buy items online? Used to, cities and municipalities wouldn't receive any taxes from online sales, which took money out of their pockets for city services. But now online purchasers must pay a use tax that is adding money into city coffers. Earlier, I sat down with the City of Stillwater's Deputy City Manager and Chief Financial Officer, Melissa Reames, to discuss this use tax. So Melissa, we've just got out of the holiday season when we've probably all been buying stuff online. Now we're getting ready for tax season, and there's something people should know that when you're buying online, when you go to fill out your taxes, you have to fill out something called a use tax. What is that use tax?
Use tax is a companion piece to sales tax. In any state in the nation that has a sales tax is going to have a use tax as well. It is a tax on goods and service or goods that are brought into the state for consumption, but that haven't had state of Oklahoma sales tax paid on them. And so at that point, then it becomes the responsibility of the buyer to pay the use tax since the seller did not collect the sales tax at the point of the sale.
Okay. Now, how is that use tax helpful to, say, the city and our citizens?
Well, of course, we encourage our citizens to support our local merchants. They're our neighbors as well as being merchants here in Stillwater. But sometimes that's not always an option, and there's things that may need to be purchased on the internet or in another municipality. And so if you bring that into the City of Stillwater for use here, you can then pay that use tax that wasn't maybe charged at the point of the sale.
And what do those types of taxes go for?
Oh, those taxes, they are general in nature, so they go to support, just like sales tax, they go to support core services, public safety, infrastructure. So by paying your use tax, you are continuing to support those core services that the city provides all citizens.
And we need those helps.
Yes, we do.
We definitely need it.
We do.
Okay, so I'm sure a lot of people are like me, and maybe not, but I don't check my receipts online to see if tax was charged.
Right.
And so how do I know if an online merchant has actually charged me for the state tax?
Well, the best way is to look at your receipts, and if you do a lot of online shopping, they may ask you for your zip code or the delivery point. So they're going to be calculating tax based on that delivery point. There was a landmark, well, I call it a landmark, Supreme Court case, I think it was a year and a half ago in the summer, South Dakota versus Wayfair. And that case established requirements for those internet type merchants or merchants who don't have a brick and mortar presence in the state. So I'm going to refer to my notes just so I get those limits correct. If remote sellers who sell at least $100,000 worth of goods within taxable merchandise within the state, in the preceding calendar year, they have to collect state sales and use tax. If they do not meet the $100,000 sales threshold, they're required to notify the purchasers of all the sales that they made to those purchasers during that calendar year for use on the use tax report. And then remote sell. So then that's over 100,000 you're supposed to collect. If you're below 100,000 but not less than 10,000, you have to do these reporting requirements. If you're under 10,000, you don't have to report at all.
So there's no going about saying, Oh, the government doesn't know where I'm spending money online.
The government is again, it's this external reporting, just like a W-2 or a 1099. These merchants are reporting to you, and they are reporting to the tax commission what those sales were.
I'll definitely have to go back and figure out what I just spent this past year.
And it's really, if you've got a place where you collect your tax information, this just becomes a piece that goes in that file, or I have an envelope at home in one of my drawers, and you just stick it in there, and then you've got it when you're doing your taxes.
I will definitely have to remember that in the future, because I do buy a lot of stuff online.
Yeah.
It's just easy.
It is easier.
Now, so because they don't think about how we've purchased things online, we think the government doesn't, but it actually does. So places like Amazon, eBay, Amazon has small little vendors that they use now. What about them?
Well, again, these rules would apply to those folks. If they're selling to our citizens in Oklahoma, they're going to have to abide by the over 100,000, under 100,000, less than $10,000 rules that the state has, and they can either elect to collect the tax or they can elect to do the reporting. It's one of the two. It seems like with my visits with my colleagues at the tax commission, more and more people it was easier to report the tax, collect the tax and report it than it was to do the reporting. Amazon is interesting in that it is a seller online, but it also provides what I call platform services for smaller vendors that can list their goods out there as well. So even if you're buying from Amazon, you may not necessarily be buying an Amazon type product. They may just be providing the platform service.
Okay, so they're not necessarily collecting it every time you buy.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. It's up to the individual vendor.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, but there's, say there's a scenario. I live in Oklahoma. I'm buying something online, but I'm not having it brought to Oklahoma. I'm having it shipped somewhere else.
Right. So with sales and use tax, it's all based on destination. That's the source of the sale. So where you take delivery of the product determines what taxes you're going to pay. So in your instance, if you live out in the county and you take delivery out in the county, you should not have to pay municipal sales tax. However, if you come into town to shop at a Walmart or a grocery store, you're taking delivery of those goods right there at the store's location, and you will be charged every tax that's applicable at that location. If you buy something, my kids live down in Houston. If you buy something here and have it shipped to Houston, again, the destination is going to be the driver of the tax. And when you think about it, it makes sense because those goods are going to be put into service down in Houston, not up in Oklahoma where the sender lives.
Now, do I still have to count that on my use tax statement?
That's a good question, and I don't know that I have the best answer for that one. I would not, because it's being put into use not in Oklahoma but down in Texas. Probably if you sent it within Oklahoma, there would be a stronger argument for you to pay some sort of use tax at that point.
So this form is not a federal form, it's a state form.
It's a state form. It's a state form. And with those types of questions, especially if it was large dollar amounts, I would encourage people to consult with their tax preparer.
Right, right. Now, you mentioned living in the county. So that's a little bit different. And when you're figuring your use tax, how do you go about figuring it?
It's the state increment, which is 4.5%, and then whatever the applicable county rate is. And here in Payne County, it's 0.813. So, and there are tables and charts out on the Tax Commission website. And there's also, if you look in the instructions for the Form 511, which is where you calculate and report your use tax, there are rates out there as well.
Okay, so say you're like me, you didn't keep any of your receipts, but you need to fill out that 511. Is there a way to calculate what I've spent and what I owe.
Yes, there's another table out there that the tax commission has provided, and it's based on your adjusted gross income. And so they'll help you calculate what they feel like is a best estimate of what you spent. So it's really in your best interest to take the few minutes to put those receipts in your tax folder. That way you are paying tax on exactly what you did bring into the state.
I don't normally make New Year's resolutions, but I think
That
I
might
just
be
made
one.
a new one.
Yeah, it could save you some dollars.
It could.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I might end up paying a whole bunch because I do buy a lot online. Now, we saw new tax forms came out
Right,
last year.
right.
A lot of people do things online. Has this form changed at all?
Not to my knowledge, it hasn't. I went out and looked at the forms before we sat down for our visit, and it's still Form 511, and it's line 21 on the Form 511. In the instructions, it's pages 10 and 11. That'll help you walk through the use tax.
Good. That should make it real easy for our citizens.
Well, and again, if you need that, contact your tax preparer for assistance.
Okay. Now, is there anything else we need to know about the subject?
Well, I just want to encourage everybody to shop local. I mean, we really want our folks to shop local, but sometimes it's not the option. And the way you can continue to help us with our sales tax is to collect those receipts and pay your use tax on your income tax return.
Okay, folks, you've heard it here. You're going to pay sales tax regardless, and it does help the city of Stillwater.
It does.
So please pay and fill it out on your taxes. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
You've been watching Your City at Work. I'm Elisa Hines. Thanks for watching. See you next time.